Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Leo for March 2018. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blogs on new moons and full moons that help you maximize those transits, plus so much more. If you're interested in learning astrology for personal or professional purposes, you can also go to anniehelpsyou.com and see if there are spots left in my astrology apprenticeship program. If you would like written horoscopes that are much more succinct than these long detailed videos that I do, you can go to my website, cozybysweetstarlight.com, for a very nice, easy read, including great reads for each sign. So, what is going on in March? We've got news still coming in from these eclipses. This is a very hot time of year, January, February, March, where lots of changes in trajectory, news, major transformation is afoot, and that continues into March. We've got through March 8th, the end of the open window for pushing things through before the personal planets start their retrograde succession that lasts all the way till the middle of December. So we'll go into great detail about that and how to best shift gears and use the energies, basically working with the energies instead of against them. And we've got 2 full moons this month, one at the beginning, one at the end, so bookending the month. We've got things coming to light, things coming to fruition, accomplishments, possibly drama, emotional occurrences that are strong highlights at the beginning and end of the month. The scene for the early degree Leos is different than for the middle and late degree placement, so I'm going to differentiate here. If you are an early born Leo, so in the first 10 days or so of the sign, or you are watching for your rising sign in that 0 to 9 degrees around, you're an early degree placement, and your chart is very focused on the 9th house this month. What I'm going to describe for the 9th house is going to come soon for the rest of you Leo placements, but it's not going to, the month isn't going to start out there. You still have focus, the rest of you still have massive amount of focus in the relationship sector. Our theme for last month was ripe relationship possibilities, and you're still very much focused on not the early degree, the rest of you, middle and late degree placements. So after 9 degrees and after the first 10 days of the sign, you're really getting more deep into entrenchment with other people, financial agreements, arrangements, resources, intimacy. This can have to do with loaning money, borrowing money, resources from your family, inheritances, also having to do with spousal money, anything having to do with your resources meshed with someone else's resources, and either you yourself being empowered or you empowering other people. Empowerment is a very strong theme for the 8th house, which is very much a highlight for most of you right now. So things involving houses and loans and credit cards and debt and things like that may very much be coming up still. Then it will shift to the 9th house, which is where you early degree placements are already going to start out the month. So for you all, I'm calling the theme of the month Expanded Horizons. And that's because the 9th house is all about Sagittarius energy. So the planets are in Pisces moving into Aries, but the house that is accentuated is the Sagittarius house. So this has to do with expanding your horizons. Sag energy is like the person on the mountaintop looking at the lay of the land. So anything that gives you a bigger perspective, a bird's eye view, a solution-oriented approach, anything having to do with teaching and learning, traveling, especially long distances and especially to different countries with different cultures and languages, anything having to do with international business, spiritual pursuits and spiritual work, so within the church or within something that's not quite as organized as a church, just spirituality in general. Those are all things that are going to be coming to the forefront. If you've been locked in a situation or an issue, the best advice for this month and this time, and for you middle and late degree placements, this is going to carry over, more until next month, is change how you're looking at things. Einstein said that we can't solve a problem with the same mentality or perspective that created the issue. And this is very much what we're looking at with this 9th house. So if you can stretch yourself out above the problem and see. So the example I like to use for this is, let's say you're in a little village and your water supply is drying up and you don't know why. If you visit the person on the mountain, the wise person on the mountain, they can see, and you can see from their perspective, that there's a dam built 3 miles up. So if you clear the dam, you have the water supply back, you know, things like that. So you really have to figure out ways that you can get out of your own way and figure out a solution, and also expand your personal horizons. Get into stuff that I wouldn't be surprised if you started to get into some things at this point in time that are surprising to you and surprising to people around you. You know, that your interests diversify, that you get really excited about maybe even a bunch of different things at once. It's really good for learning and very good for teaching, and very good for just general expansion of your being. So those are the things, the areas of focus that are most on my mind for the more superficial transits. Something else that's happening as, and this is, again, more current for the early degree placements, and this will be coming at a later point for middle and later degree placements. But Uranus, the planet of surprises and things out of the blue and radical change, and changes you instigate or changes that come to you that seem out of your control, that's moving into your work sector. So the odds for you early Leos, and then coming later as a theme for middle and then later as a theme for late, sudden decisions to change your vocation, sudden leaving of your job or losing of your job, sudden change within career direction, surprising things going on with dad or father figures, anything having to do with the 10th house, so your place out in the world becoming more of a radical new approach. So this is a long-term theme. These are not the superficial transits that I was talking about with the 9th house. This is something that's like a big story that's going to be a long-term change where there's something really active and really busy from this Uranus placement activating your 10th house sector. Things you were satisfied with, you might not be satisfied with anymore. You know, things that seem like you could do them forever, you might have the tolerance of you can't even imagine doing it for another month. You know, so you also might have some really great insights into what you can do. So Spirit is very active at this time with Uranus. They're giving you ideas. And if some of the ideas sound crazy, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't necessarily do them, you know? So just keep a notebook of the ideas that you have, because when Uranus is involved, a lot of times these ideas are fleeting and you think, wow, that's such a good idea, for sure, I'll remember that. But then it's like on to the next thing. So this is just a big time of change, a big time of seeing yourself within the community and how you can serve the greater community also. So that's just one other thing I wanted to mention, because that's going to be a really big deal, especially for your early degree placements at this time. So those are the things that are most on my mind for the month for you Leo placements. Now I want to talk about the rest of these general transits that are so relevant for you to understand how to best use this month, how to place this month compared to the scheme of the rest of the year, and my list for the ways to have the least frustrating, most enjoyable, most awesome succession of retrogrades that we're standing before. So we're going to talk about that now. So the theme of March 2018 for all signs is charging towards the past. I'm going to go into lots of detail about the general transits this month that I feel are relevant. Also, how this month and the energies and the recommendations for this month are actually starting a theme that lasts from March through the middle of December of 2018. So tips for now are going to hold as tips for the rest of the year pretty much. And we'll also go into some specific dates and other themes this month that are shorter term. If you would like a written version of what I'm about to share, then definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter, and I send out a written version of the details I'm going to go into a month before the time they're relevant for. So if you find that it's a lot to take in and you want to see it written, then definitely do that. Okay, so charging towards the past. The energy of Aries, which is what predominates this month, after a short carryover from February of these Pisces energies. So we start out the month with internal, emotional focus, poetic and artistic energies, spiritual and meditative interests being highlighted, and other Piscean energies. But very quickly, as we get deeper into the month, the Aries energies take over. And Aries energies bring zest and impulsiveness and excitement and inspiration and impatience. Basically a desire to do something. Aries is an action-oriented energy. And so this month, the predominance of the energy is going to make you feel like you want to do something, like you want to take action on something. But because after March 7th or 8th, the energies start going backwards, this slow, steady decline into a year worth of very strong personal planet retrograde energies, I'm calling it charging towards the past, because if you feel like you want to do something, taking action on things that have an eye towards the past, or shorter term things, or clearing up things from the past, are going to go further than trying to launch new things. Now that's after March 8th or so, because we are still in the open window free from personal planets being retrograde until March 8th. So if you have some things that you want to push forward, long-term things, things that you've been working on for a while, things that you don't want to wait until the middle of December to bring out and be able to have good momentum, then you still have some time at the beginning of the month. But it's kind of ironic because the Aries energies don't start to get stronger until later in the month. You know, I mean, it's starting after the first week. So this first week of the month that is kind of covered in Pisces, emotional internal energy, is actually some of the best energy for bringing things out. So you'll just have to feel your way through this. You know, I give you all of this information so that you have it, but ultimately you have to tune into your intuition, into what the signs are showing you for when you're going to do what. So a theme that's going to come up throughout many transits throughout this month is of this over-exuberant Aries energy, bumping up in a challenging angle to Saturn or another planet in Capricorn, which still holds these Saturnian energies. So the way I imagine this is like a stern parent glaring at a child who's spinning around in a shop of fragile items. So the typical bull in a china shop energy is what really predominates at this time of the year, especially when we have a retrograde. So you're going to be rumping and bumping up against things, and that's going to especially be relevant on March 11th, on the days around March 11th, March 13th, March 23rd, the 24th, and the 29th, because on these dates you've got personal planets hitting challenging angles with either Saturn or an outer planet in Capricorn, which still has the same energy. So it's not a time to try to force things, is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so if you're going to put extra energy that you have, and you probably will have, into something, it's best done to be put with an eye to the past, basically. So if you've got things to wrap up from the past, if something has come back in your field that's an idea from the past, working on that, something that has a contact or a connection to the past, or is a short-term thing. You're trying something on, you're experimenting with something, you're trying to do something that only has a short, shelf life anyway. All of these things are great at this time. It's just the longer term things that we want to hold a little bit closer to us. So if you are pushing too hard in areas that are not flowing, you're going to get really frustrated. That will be a theme of this month if you choose to flow against the tides. It will be very prudent to put extra effort this month into guarding your body, especially your head, because Aries rules the head. So just being really careful about the awkwardness that is at play this month. So your routine for keeping your zen might have to be a little bit boosted, so be as proactive as possible for keeping your zen. So we're still having eclipse challenges and opportunities rolling in from the January and February eclipses. So you might see news or developments around things that had already come in still here in March. So be looking out for those. If you haven't watched my January and February reports, then definitely do that for your sign, because in January, I talk about the lunar eclipse and how it can affect your sign or your rising sign, whatever you're watching for. And in the February report, I talk about how the solar eclipse can affect your sign. So you want to have those understandings because those eclipses are going to carry much further than these months that they occur in. So to help you get a better idea of themes at play that have been at play for a little while, they're going to continue to be at play, check out the January, February reports as well. And that's all I'm going to say really about the eclipses, because you can see those reports for more information, and there is a lot of information there. We have 2 full moons again this month, okay? So we had 2 full moons in January. We had no full moons in February, and now we have 2 full moons in March. So this, again, is making more emotion, more things coming to fruition, more possibly drama, more things that come to light. So at the beginning and the end of the month, you might see important and emotional occurrences, notable discoveries, or things coming to notable fruition. So until around March 8th, when Mercury retrograde shadow period starts, and also Jupiter starts its retrograde, there's more clarity around submitting taxes, making agreements, signing paperwork than there is after that point. So if you know that you're going to have to sign paperwork at some point in March, it might behoove you to do it early March. If you have any doubt about it, it might be better to hold off altogether because the contracts and the terms and all those things will likely change. I'm not going to talk a lot about Mercury retrograde implications in this general report, but I have made a separate video for that. So if you search for Mercury retrograde, Annie Botticelli, I go into lots of detail. But what I am going to go into a lot of detail about this month is, instead of focusing on what to avoid when Mercury is in retrograde, I'm going to talk about what is great when personal planets are in retrograde in general to prep you for the rest of this year. So I'm going to go into detail about that. So that window that is free from personal planets being retrograde or their shadow periods is running through March 8th. So again, try to get your stuff out by then if you can. There are some dates that I like that you can check out in the newsletter for moving forward if you have to in March, but do remember that when you push something out, just when the tide's about to come in, you don't have a chance for a lot of momentum. And that's what I want to talk about next. So to better understand what we're standing before at this period of time when Mercury starts its retrograde is not just a typical Mercury retrograde transit. It's a Mercury retrograde transit that when it's finished, then we have a Mars retrograde transit, then we have a Mercury retrograde transit, then we have a Venus retrograde. So I'm best imagining this by an experience I had at the Bay of Fundy. The Bay of Fundy is, well, you can see it from different points, but mostly it's in Canada, in Nova Scotia. And when I was in Nova Scotia, I happened to show up at the Bay of Fundy, not intentionally in realizing this, but I figured it out when I was there, that this is the place that accepts, there's one other place that claims to have this status, but it's believed that the Bay of Fundy has the highest tides within a tidal period than anywhere in the world. So there's 50 vertical feet of water that come in and out of this area within like 12 hours. It's crazy. So I happened to hit this point when the water was out, which was amazing because you can see the water lines and you can see how much water was going to come in. If the tide had been in, I wouldn't have had a good perspective of how this was going to work. But this is the image that I want to leave you with. It's actually just barely missed being named as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Okay, so imagine you are a person wanting to put your boat out and all of this 50 feet of water is out, the tide is out. And then you say, wow, what a great time, I'm gonna put my boat out. Well, over the next 12 hours, which for us represents the next 9 months until the middle of December, all of that water is going to come in. So you're trying to get your boat out when 50 vertical feet of water is coming in, it's gonna be really hard. So I really want you to think about that. So the things that you think that you have to get out between now and the middle of December, really feel into that. If there are certain things that have to come out, if they're small things, if they're things that aren't of consequence, if they're carryovers or additions to something you already have out, if they're things that aren't your biggest thing that you're trying to do, then that's fine. It's fine to just keep doing what you're doing. But you're going to have all of this 50 feet of water coming in between now and the middle of December. So your attention is better focused rather than trying to put something out to sea, your boat out to sea, your creation out to sea, is better focused on some other things. So now I'm going to talk to you about the things that I love for when personal planets are retrograde. So this stands for Mercury, Mars, and Venus, and this is all the theme that's going to happen from March through the middle of December. Okay, so I love this time for relaxing and being on free flow with no agenda. So it makes it a fantastic time for vacations and staycations. Yes, there are certain logistical things that when Mercury specifically is retrograde that you have to pay attention to more, which you can see in the Mercury retrograde video that I have. And also my new website, astrologykissedtravelbliss.com. You can see more information about this here, because I wanted to knowing that this time was going to be amazing for vacations, I wanted to launch this website, Astrology Kissed Travel Bliss, so that you have it to assist you in taking great vacations during this time that's amazing for vacations. So especially when Mars is retrograde, which is going to be most of this period of time, the shadow period, you'll start to really feel that in May. It'll go straight through into the fall or spring for y'all down under. So the energy of Mars in retrograde is going to make people lazy and unambitious compared to how they usually are. Now, the one caveat to that is if you have Mars retrograde in your chart, sometimes you come alive when Mars is in retrograde, but most people get lazy. So I believe it's an overachiever's dream. We'll go into way more details about this, and I have lots of resources, blogs, and videos about Mars retrograde. But the theme of the month for March and the things that are good for March are also good for the times to come. So I just want you to be preparing for that. So if you're an overachiever, you actually get a break from yourself during Mars retrograde. Okay, so this March, Mercury retrograde is going to be starting this theme of you kind of moving towards the inner realms and being more calm. You have an amazing opportunity to shift your area of focus from pushing out to pushing in. Okay, I also love this time for deep indulgences in hobbies and fun. This is a wonderful, amazing opportunity we have when it's like somebody, the universe, is giving us the green light to not be on turbo all the time, not to be completely overscheduled, not to be having 10,000 things on our list. So that leaves room for fun things. So basically things that are low stakes with no deadlines and no consequence if you don't finish. Those are the things I like for March and through the rest of the year. Things that flow in easily and unexpected. So again, with no consequence, if the term changes, no deadlines, no or low commitments. If something comes in, you're like, that's interesting. Okay, let me try that on. We'll do that. Okay, fine. That's wonderful for this month. Revising, reworking things previously pushed out into the world. That's part of why I've been encouraging you all, if you watch my videos regularly, I've been trying to get you to push things out in January and February if it's intuitively in line for you. Because this retrograde time is an amazing time for reworking, redoing, revising, revamping things that are already out. So that's what I mean about retrogrades being fine for business as usual. So you can do your business as usual. Just continue along whatever you're doing. And maybe you're bringing something out, maybe you're bringing a new offering, but the level of the new offerings that we want to try to keep the focus for this period of time from March through the middle of December is doing things you've already been doing or of the type you've already been doing, and not this is my big life's work that I'm finally bringing out to you. That's not the kind of thing that we want you to bring out. Now, one piece of information in case you absolutely have something you have to bring out. You can't bring it out by March 8th, and you can't wait until the middle of December. We have a week window from May 4th through May 11th, where Mercury retrograde has done with its post-shadow transit, and Mars pre-shadow transit has not started yet. So you have this week from May 4th to May 11th if you have to fit some things in. But again, be conscious of the fact that you're still putting it out when all of that, more of that vertical water is coming in. So it might not have the momentum that you're hoping for. So just kind of really feel in to how you want to work this. It might be perfectly appropriate for your situation to bring something out. Taking calm action on unfinished business of on any level that's squeaking for attention, or that you work on proactively before an issue comes up. Okay, so any unfinished business is the domain of the retrogrades, like being the earthworm. The earthworm is the theme of the retrogrades. So basically working over the soil, working over the soil, working over the soil, continuing to work over the soil, anything like that, or being proactive where you know there's something swept under the rug. Retrogrades are a time when things swept under the rug will definitely bring things out. So if you've been avoiding it, if there's a common theme in your relationships, if there's a common theme in your health, if there's a common theme in your work, these retrogrades are going to bring everything back up to be reevaluated. So doing inner work I mean as tools that you use with the understanding that we're creating our reality from our perception and our programming inside. So if you have patterns in your life that are reoccurring, we can't blame the current manifestations. We have to, I don't want to even use the word blame, we have to look to the things that we brought to the equation from our imprinting, from our astrological profile, from our childhood, etc. So the retrogrades are amazing for doing things like EMDR, EFT, neuro-linguistic programming, and other self-development and trauma clearing tools. Working on future launches in the backdrop. This is an amazing time to be working on a website in the backdrop. You can be having a website that only has an admin panel, so nobody sees it, it's not live to the world, and you could be working on that through the retrogrades. That's perfectly appropriate and totally fine to be doing. So websites, courses, books, artistic endeavors, business plans, any other big project that will eventually be brought out, it's perfectly fine to be making headway on those things, just kind of keeping it more quiet and internal rather than telling everybody or making a big deal in the outer world about it. I also love the retrogrades for experimenting with low stakes projects. Oh, and also, by the way, this list of the things I love for retrograde times is written, I put it in a blog form on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. So again, if you want a written version of this, you can go to anniehelpsyou.com, click on blog, click on astrology, and it will be there. Because I know some of you are visual and it's hard to take all of this in listening. So experimenting with low stakes projects. Play with ideas you have and test things out and experiment. This is a wonderful time for that. Again, low stakes, low commitments, and find if the terms change. Those are the themes that we want to keep in mind as we're playing and bringing things out in this time. Continuing things already launched. Business as usual is fine and totally appropriate, so you don't have to say, well, what can I do? I can't do anything. No, I'm not saying you can't do anything. I'm saying to avoid major launches. Okay, so studying, learning, and exploring. So March and beyond is amazing for learning and studying. The internal energies, Mercury in particular, rules the intellect and gathering and sharing information. So any courses of study, especially ones that are shorter terms. When I say shorter term, like Mercury usually rules like a 6 to 9 month course or less. Venus can have like an 18-month commitment, but that Venus retrograde is towards the end of the year. The Mars retrograde may invite cycles of around 2 years, so that's like kind of the summer or the winter for you all down under. So yeah, exploring, looking into things, traveling, armchair traveling, anything where you're studying, experiencing, low stakes, low commitment, things that fall in your lap. All right, so these are all the things that I love for you for March. And I'm also going to hit a couple of highlights with the dates, certain dates. I gave you a few where it's good to be wary of these run-ins with sort of Saturnian figures, challenges, blocks on the 11th, 13th, 23rd, 24th, and 29th. Remember, you can get a written version of these notable transits and what I think you can expect with them, as well as themes for the month when you sign up at anniehelpsyou.com for my newsletter. So March 1st, we have a full moon at 11 degrees of Virgo, also with an awesome Venus and Jupiter trine. So this is really great if you have to pull things forward before the tides start to roll in. I love this energy. Jupiter's going to go retrograde on March 8th. Jupiter going into retrograde means that the overt enthusiasm, optimism, and blessings that Jupiter is bringing in certain areas of our life are more likely going to be pulled back and less obvious. So we can feel a little bit more discouraged in certain areas of life, but Jupiter is trying to shore up foundational issues so that it can further expand when it goes direct. Okay, so from March 8th through July 10th, we'll have Jupiter retrograde. And this will affect everybody, but especially Saggies will most obviously feel that. March 11th, there is a challenging aspect with Mercury and Saturn that I listed, but there's also an amazing aspect with Mars and Uranus. So the way that I always say to work making your decisions around these transits is that you'll be feeling this in your own unique way, because general transits don't take into consideration your personal chart and how everything is hitting in your personal chart. So you have to trust your flow. If an astrologer says there's a certain good day for something and you're feeling crappy that day and everything's going wrong, don't do it, But if you felt great the day before, pull it through, So when we have an aspect on a certain day, like I'm saying March 11th is pretty busy, there are multiple transits on this day with different kinds of energies, you might feel that energy on March 7th, So the dates that these occur are just guidelines for an energy that's happening around a certain period of time. But I really like a lot of this energy around the 11th. But the one thing to look out for is if there seems to be something really pushing against you, just really tune in and make sure you're supposed to be moving forward. Okay, we've got the new moon on March 17th at almost 27 degrees of Pisces. This is the time to make your new moon wishes on Piscean topics. So you get 10 wishes, and it's the more you align your wishes with the energy of the sign, the more it makes it's easier for the universe to make them come true. So things like true inner happiness and peace, sleep, imagination, emotional sensitivity, connectedness of all things, surrender, trust, spiritual awareness, meditation, angelic assistance, things involving your feet or immune system, and lymphatic systems are also in the Pisces domain. So making your wishes around those types of things. It's a little chance for some ego battles with self or others to come up at this new moon, but there's also an amazing Jupiter boost. Okay, so March 22nd is when Mercury goes retrograde. So basically starting March 8th, we've got the shadow period. So from March 8th through the 22nd, that's the shadow period. Then the retrograde goes from the 22nd through April 15th, and then the post-shadow period goes through May 4th. And that's why I said after May 4th, you have that little open window free from the personal planets retrograde. So those are the things that are most on my mind for this month. We've got an amazing opportunity to chill out, an amazing opportunity to use energy that is present to charge towards the past. And we have amazing opportunities to just take a break from what has become the norm of life. And I think that's hopefully will be very welcome if you use it the right way. So definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. I have blogs on there for the new moons and the full moons, plus lots of other things. Definitely go to cozybysweetstarlight.com, where you can get your written version of your horoscopes in a much more simple, less detailed way, often talking about things that I don't talk about in the videos. If you're a travel lover or just an armchair warrior, definitely check out my beautiful new site, astrologykissedtravelbliss.com. And if you're interested in a reading, an astrology reading or a tarot reading, definitely go to my husband's website, iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.